Hello, welcome back. Time now for business news, and for that, I'm joined on set once again by William Edwards. Hello there, Will.
Hi, Louise.
OK, 24 hours on from the fiscal cliff drama, Will, and how are the markets reacting?
Well, the US markets, of course, in their previous session did react very well to this agreement. The Dow Jones having its best ever start of the year, up nearly 2.4%. President Obama has now signed that deal into law from his holiday vacation destination in Hawaii. But actually in Asia, if we take a look at how things are going there, I think the sparkle is starting to wear off. You can see the Kospi is in negative territory. And actually in the last few minutes, I can tell you that actually the Hang Seng is moving into negative territory in afternoon trading. But not everyone's been quite so bowled over by the deal. The thing is that while this deal was agreed on taxes, the whole issue of spending cuts did not get addressed at all. It just got pushed down the line by around 2 months. There's going to be this whole thing coming up again, more wrangling over the fiscal cliff, effectively over spending cuts. And also Congress needs to give the OK to the federal government to borrow more. It's known as the debt ceiling, which has to be raised. The IMF has given a pretty lukewarm response to the agreement that's been made.
OK, well, meanwhile, the fiscal cliff has caused a delay in the financial aid to the victims of Hurricane Sandy, Will.
Yeah, well, following on from the fiscal cliff vote, the House of Representatives leader John Boehner, he decided to postpone a vote which could have seen $60 billion of hurricane aid put through. That's already been passed by the Senate. So basically, a lot of people in New Jersey and New York, which were both affected, feel that this has put off them getting hurricane aid. Now there will be a vote on January the 15th, but still that's much later than people were expecting. And even members of John Boehner's own party have been disappointed by this. Let's take a listen to Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey.
There's only one group to blame for the continued suffering of these innocent victims: the House majority and their Speaker, John Boehner. Last night, the House of Representatives failed that most basic test of public service, and they did so with callous indifference to the suffering of the people of my state.
All right, well, next to Europe, where the battle is now on to become Italy's next Prime Minister. And it's an election that's likely to focus on the economy. Mario Monti has launched a bid for a second term, having originally promised to step down, while former PM Silvio Berlusconi is campaigning against Monti's austerity agenda.
After his U-turn on deciding to run, Mario Monti launches his election campaign, and he warns the economic stakes for Italy are too high to be ignored. Speaking on Italian radio Wednesday, Monti said his government's austerity measures had brought the country back from the brink.
We had to do this without too much regard to reduce the government deficit by implementing spending cuts and raising taxes in the short term. We did this and we can't continue with it. However, had we not taken these measures, we would not today be talking about growth in Italy. We would be like Greece.
The former EU Commissioner also said his technocratic government was forging ahead in the face of opposition from both wings of Italian politics.
The left-right divide is much less important than the divide between those who want to change the country with reforms and by working in synergy with Europe, and those on both the left and the right who oppose the change for their own reasons.
A nervous bond market forced Silvio Berlusconi to resign as Prime Minister 14 months ago. Now Berlusconi is back, and he says Monti is not a man of his word.
I have to say what he says is no longer credible. He was installed to lead a technical government, and he promised the president that he wouldn't profit from his role by entering politics. He promised me as outgoing prime minister, and he promised the Italian people.
Berlusconi has been making comments critical of both Germany and the EU in the past week, leading to a rise of 6% in the polls. Should he be elected, Brussels may find itself dealing with a less compliant Prime Minister than Mario Monti.
OK, let's look at the oil industry now, Will, and there are worries about Shell's plans to drill in the Arctic.
Yeah, Shell is among the oil companies that have been part of you could call it a scramble for the Arctic. As temperatures heat up and ice retreats, companies are exploring. Shell has been doing so for the last few months. This is an oil platform of theirs, which they're towing back to Seattle for maintenance. And it got caught up and it came loose from the tugboats that were taking it. You can see now it's run aground on an island just off Alaska. Now, potential, of course, for some environmental damage here. It's got 150,000 tons of oil on board just to power itself. This isn't oil that's extracted from the ground or anything like that. Nevertheless, environmentalists say it shows the risks of operating in such a dangerous climate, with the Arctic obviously having seas of 35 or 40 feet at times. And, Shell has dismissed these claims. They say that salvage teams, though, now have boarded the rig.
OK, meanwhile, renewables have got quite a shot in the arm from one of the world's most successful investors, Will.
Yes, Warren Buffett, his firm Mid-American Energy, it's made its biggest investment in solar energy so far, worth a massive $2.5 billion. Wow. The company is buying 2 plants in California's Antelope Valley, which will be completed by 2015. Thought it would be one of the 2 of the biggest plants in the United States. The company's already made 2 smaller investments in solar, but the price of solar energy is coming down now to be more competitive with fossil fuels. So this could be the way of the future. OK, brilliant. Well, back here in Europe, it is, of course, sale season. Cash-strapped Spaniards are particularly pleased to be getting a bargain on Wednesday after a new law brought the start of the sales forward by 5 days. Let's take a look.
5 more days of bargain hunting. Spain's cash-strapped government's hoping that a new law that has brought the holiday sales forward to the 2nd rather than the 7th of January can tempt more people out onto the high streets. Many shoppers are jumping at the chance.
This is actually great, because you can come to these sales to buy the last Christmas presents this week, and so can save some money.
With unemployment at 25%, Spain's struggling to emerge from its second recession in 3 years. As the government's reined in its spending, so has its people. But many families will still be hoping to get the post-Christmas presents traditionally exchanged on the 5th of January. So the early sales are a welcome help.
T-shirts for €3, dresses for... how much was it? Oops, it's for a present. But I found cheap things, €10 or so.
Even these temptations are unlikely to take Spaniards' minds off an economic crisis that's hit them with higher taxes and cuts to benefits, an austerity programme that will be with them long after the sales are done.
Excellent. Can't wait to hit the sales myself, Will. In the meantime, let's take a look at the United States. And a town has moved to ban bottled water. Why is that?
Concord, Massachusetts, town councillors say that small bottles, individual-sized bottles, are wasteful and create waste and encourage a throwaway culture. So from now on, you'll only be able to buy bottles of 1 litre or larger. It's similar to something already tried in Australia, actually. You can see pictures here of the Australian town of Bundanoon, wonderfully named, and they introduced a complete ban on bottled water in 2009. They say that carting it around the place creates CO2 emissions, and of course, when you throw them away, plastic bottles don't tend to be biodegradable.
Right, OK, well, thank you very much, Will. That was Will Edwards there with our business news. Time for a quick break, but Karen Creed coming up.